Welcome to Sports Makes Sense, where the game meets the grind. I'm Joel Gamble, former NFL player for the Philadelphia Eagles, Cleveland Browns, and the Tennessee Titans. On this podcast, we break down the biggest sports stories and financial plays behind them, bringing you real conversations with athletes, coaches, and industry insiders. Whether it's contracts, investments, or life after the game, we connect the X's and the O's to the dollars and cents. Let's go.
Been working for this since January. Pick your hands up. Let's go, man. Pick your hands up. Let's go. Ah! There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go, James. Good boy. There you go, Matt Vick. Sorry, Mike Though crew. I ain't got much for you today. I love you, Coach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good, man. Keep killing it, man. I love you, man.
Talk about that damn pick game you
Yeah.
had in Seattle. I tell the guys.
How's Miss Amy doing?
Great.
Great.
I
Good,
tell her
man.
you said hello.
Please do, man. Love you, Coach. Yeah, always.
What's up, everybody? For all of those viewers out there, this your boy Joel Gamble. We're here with another special guest in the building today. Former NFL player, linebacker, played for several teams, including the Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans, Detroit Lions, New York Jets, New England Patriots, and Atlanta Falcons. Beyond football, Brandon is a financial expert and an entrepreneur. He's known for his work in financial literacy and wealth building strategies. He's actually been featured on popular platforms on Netflix, such as Buy My House, check it out, and then Earn Your Leisure. Shucks, like all of us are watching Earn Your Leisure now. Brandon was on there, but when they first was kicking things off, and where he was able to share insight on real estate investing, as well as now he has actually started up an organization, a business entitled athletes.org, and we'll get into that. This business helps athletes navigate business, NIL deals, and financial decisions. Without any further ado, my guy, you guys know him as B. Cope, Brandon Copeland in the building. What's up, shorty?
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man?
I'm blessed, man. I'm
Incredible.
blessed, man. I've been waiting for
Yeah,
this.
man.
It's been a while since, all the time when we get a chance to chat, chop it up. It's always a pleasure, whether it's talking about nonprofit, whether it's talking about finances, whether it's talking about just, on the field and our experiences, or
Yeah.
if it's talking about TZ Sports,
Yep.
and how we was dying. Like training for the league. But yeah, I just want to give you a couple moments to just introduce yourself, give a little bit of background on
Yep.
on your journey as it relates to, just getting to the NFL. And then, man, you've actually you've been ahead of the game, ahead of the curve when it comes to finances, and knowing that the NFL stands for not for long. And
Mhm.
so, just talk a little bit about that, like how you've been able to save while you were even playing.
Yeah, man. Well, one, thank you first and foremost for even having me. Like you said, I mean, the beautiful thing about our friendship and brotherhood is the conversation consistently evolves. We all have those friends and people who, you continue to go and grow and what they're talking about is not what you're talking about anymore, right? It's
Right,
not
right.
as stimulating as it was 5 years ago or 10 years
Yeah.
ago, et cetera, right? And so I always appreciate the fact that, there are certain things that you were talking to me about years ago that years later I didn't know that I'd be experiencing them myself as running the nonprofit, or
Mm,
things
mm,
that you were going through in the league that years later I ended up going or walking
mm.
into myself as well too. And now, to continue the different money conversations and dialogues it's incredible. It's an absolute
Yeah,
blessing to be able to do it with somebody who you've known for so long. And I don't
yeah.
take it for granted. Brandon Copeland, Christian husband, father, son, brother. I am a constant learner. I'm
Mm,
curious as all hell. I like to not just learn just to learn. I like to know how it works. I like to understand where the money is. And frankly, I like
mhm.
to evaluate things of whether they're impactful first on whether they're changing the life for a younger version of me. And if those boxes are checked, okay, is this something that I'm willing to try to create a business out of, or something that's going to interest me 5 years from now, so to speak? And so serial entrepreneur, and all of it is wrapped around the mission of helping a younger version of myself. Whether it's real estate, it's putting houses and roofs on people's heads. Whether it's the nonprofit, it's putting food in people's bellies. It's giving them jackets when they're cold. It's giving some kids gifts who otherwise wouldn't have had it. It's doing football camps and things of that nature, just to give young people positive mentors to look up to that care about them for more than just how many tackles they can make.
Yeah.
Frankly, you know.
Yeah. He wasn't making that many tackles, y'all. He was out there. I remember those days I was pancaking the young boy. You nickname him IHOP out here.
No
Oh
comment,
yeah.
y'all. No comment. And ultimately, frankly, I'm just a guy that's trying to get, and not to be too deep, but I'm just trying to maximize my opportunity here.
Hmm.
We go to the league, and they fire you. You say thank you for the opportunity. You really kind of feel like, man, I worked my tail off for this opportunity. You barely even gave me one. But we all got this one opportunity in life, and certain things I've been through have proven to me how fragile it is. And I just have this consistent fear of getting to the end of my life and being like, yeah, I should have just went for it, or I should have just done
Hmm.
this, or I could have helped that person, but I was being a little bit too lazy. So I overwhelmed myself, frankly, with a lot of different responsibilities and things, probably too much at certain times. But that's just me running away from the fear of getting to the end of life and feeling like I could have done more, frankly. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so that's me in a nutshell. And ultimately, I think one of the questions you asked was, or you led with, is how did we get on this path of educating people around their money and
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
it and stuff like
Because
that.
I remember specifically you got your first opportunity with the Baltimore Ravens, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
That was a short-lived opportunity, and I remember there was opportunity that was presented itself to you. I think it was a regional camp or regional
Hmm.
combine they were doing at the time, and you got a chance to go out there and really impress some folks. But I remember the transition. It was like, I gotta make sure I'm saving. I remember some of those conversations we were having when even at that time I had already retired, and you were just like, yeah, I'm just, saving up. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna get another shot. And then, you boom, you go out there, you impress the scouts, you impress everybody, and now in the league after the Ravens stint, you in the league for eight years. Yeah, man. You
Hmm.
like you go from, the Ravens situation to now you're a NFL vet of 9, 10 years. And, just like the thought process that you had just from that experience with the Ravens of them letting you go at that time. And like you always talked about the financial portion of things and how you were living off of, like, I don't know, maybe 20% of your salary or something crazy. Like, talk to us about that and where that came from, because a lot of us don't have a financial education, to be honest,
Yeah.
or growing up we haven't.
Yeah, man. I think so that time, so that was 2013. As you mentioned, signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I saw 4,000 of those dollars. Technically, I was signed to a 3-year, $1.45 million contract in
Mm,
April of 2013 when the Baltimore Ravens called me to sign me as an undrafted free agent. Saw 24,000 of those dollars before being fired for the first time. And as you know, that you don't see any of those other dollars, right?
money
Meanwhile,
stop.
I saw facts. Meanwhile, I saw some of my teammates at the time. Snapchat was big there then, and I remember seeing some guys going into, at that time it was like Owings Mills Mall, which anybody from the area knows that mall was dying and is
Mm,
now dead. And they were going around and they were, selfies. Hey, we at the mall, y'all stay off, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, you are making what I'm making, which is barely anything right
mm,
now. And they
mm,
might have just been stunting for Snapchat and not really purchasing stuff. But I was just like, none of us have really changed our lives yet. Like
right.
you will always be able to say you're an NFL player, but there's a difference between what you came to the NFL for. Because part of your dream was to play in the NFL, but it was also like the things that come with it, right? The
Hmm.
parties, the
Hmm.
lifestyle, the money, et cetera, et cetera. As you get
Yeah.
older, some of those things evolve. The one thing that remains the same is like I want this to be a life changing thing financially. And as you mentioned, I got fired. And for the next year and a half, I played with the Tennessee Titans for a bit as well too. But my bank account just starts dwindling down, and I got down
Yep.
to $243 in my bank account before I got that invite to that combine. It was in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, March 2015. It was
Mm.
the first time that they ever did it. It's the last time that they ever did it. And they had 100 of us. And like you said, I had God looked out for me, and I prepared with Troy and TZ and all of that type of stuff. I was disciplined in that training regiment, and I had the best interview of my life. And I went from having 0 teams offer me a spot to half the NFL offered me a spot. What a lot of people don't know is, again, even at that time, I signed to play with the Detroit Lions. It was the hardest. It was one of the harder rosters to make because they already had their linebackers. They were running a 4-3 system, and I was really five out of the four. I was 5 or 6 out of the four that they were planned on keeping. I ended up working myself onto that roster, but that spring, my first week in Detroit, literally my second day there, I ran over a pothole and I cracked the windshield of my car. I was driving my mother's car. It was a silver Acura, a gray Acura, dark gray. And
Yeah.
I had signed up to drive Uber because I didn't know. I got a $25,000 signing bonus. Again, going from $243 in my bank account to 25,000. And I was
Mm.
like, let me drive Uber. I'm probably sure I can get me 5 stars, a Detroit Lion driving people around on Uber. Hopefully I can get me, some
Imagine
five
that,
stars.
y'all.
Yeah,
Hopping in
man.
the Uber. That's like,
I was gonna get them
like a
good
special
reviews.
Uber, like Kevin Hart
Yeah.
and somebody, yeah, I'm a professional athlete.
And because I hit that pothole in my windshield crack, Uber wouldn't let me drive. Like you can't
Wow.
have a cracked windshield or that type of damage to your car. You had to go do an inspection and they
Right.
wouldn't let you do it. So I'm happy that they didn't let me do it. However, that's where I was. And to have an opportunity to go play football, make money, my mindset was like, okay, I've seen this thing dwindle to nothing,
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do to save as much of this as possible? Because the last 2 years from 2013 to 2015 has proven to me that this thing ain't promised
Right.
and I
Right.
don't want to be dependent on anybody else. So that put me in the place of like, let me
Mm.
save as much as possible and let me invest as much as possible. But I always tell people, you work your entire life to make money. You go to school, and I ask students, what do you go to school for? Well, I'm going to school so I get good grades. Well, why you want good grades? So that one day I can go to a better school, a good college, and do what? You want to get a good what? A good job. I want to get a good job. Why do you want a good job? Because it pays me well. All right, cool. So you've worked your entire life to make money. Once you get the money, you got to work twice as hard to save it, and then
Mm.
3 times as hard to grow it. And so that for me was the work. It was, how do I make sure I'm eating all my meals or as many of my meals as possible at the facility? How am I taking the to-go box home? How am I I'm using the facilities equipment? The things I would spend money on were more
Mm.
so obviously the place I had a roof over my head. I still had a roommate because again, this thing wasn't promised, but also I would always invest in my body. So like
Mm.
if it's Normatec boots, I remember that was a big decision for me in 2015. It was cost like $1,500 with the discount to get the Normatec boots. And I was like, man, I don't know. Like I can just come to the facility and use it. But
Yeah.
then watching some of the OGs and me thinking about it, well, if I have the Normatec boots at home, there's going to be a night where it's like I don't feel like staying at the facility. The trainers want to leave, but I can use those Normatec boots at night before bed. And
Yeah.
if I pay this 1,500, maybe it gets me one more game. Maybe my
Mm-hmm.
legs are fresher for one more game. And guess what? That's a great investment. $1,500
Yeah.
investment for a game check, a great ROI. So
We
like I
good.
would think like that on certain things, and that's what also allowed me to be financially smart with my money and where I chose to spend, but
Mm.
also be strategic about like not caring about any investments into me because we know if we bet on ourselves, we gonna win. And
Right. Right.
that was
That's
key
that
to me
Baltimore
lasting so
mentality
long.
right there. That's that Baltimore. We got that grind. Bro, you mentioned something about people oftentimes they work or they go to school, they get the education, they work, or they get the education to get a job. And then, so this is book called How Money Works. I'm sure you've
Mm,
already heard of it. And it's this phrase in here. I'm gonna read this phrase right here. So instead of putting their money to work, the sucker spends his or her money foolishly or
mm,
deposits it into a low interest account. Why instant gratification and ignorance? They simply don't know what else to do with it. Essentially, the sucker gets a paycheck from someone wealthy, then hands their paycheck back to someone else that's wealthy who then makes more money with the sucker's money. So
Mm.
that's that's
Woo!
that's crazy, bro. Like when you think about it, it's like, this whole, I don't know, like we've been educated, it's like we've been programmed to live a certain lifestyle, or programmed even for ignorance when it
Mm.
comes to finances, and get you a job, buy a home. And we'll talk about home ownership, which is a huge opportunity for folks to build wealth with assets. But just everything that's painted a picture of, I remember when I was coming out of high school, it was pushed to go to college, but there
Hmm.
was never a strategy around like, what am I going to do after college,
After.
and how am I going to pick, what type of job opportunity, career opportunity am I going to have? How much is that going to pay?
Mm.
So I think that's a huge strategy that folks need to, to actually take into account. I know you went to an Ivy League school. Were you guys at the University of Penn, already talking or having conversations about finances then?
Yeah, man. I think so one, I love the quote that you shared, and that the most powerful book on money that I've ever read outside of Your Money Playbook, my own book, Shameless book, is the Banker's Code. And the Banker's Code talks literally about that, right? Yeah, there you go. Looks good.
Is y'all. There it
Thank you.
is. Yeah.
The Banker's Code talks basically about literally what you're speaking about, is like how the system is set up, how the biggest lie in the world is to put your money in the bank. And that
Mm.
is not to be offensive to banks. They have a certain purpose and things like that. But when you put your money in the bank takes your money and they go out and leverage it and invest it. And then when you come back to the bank and say, "Hey, I want to buy a car," they say, "All right, we'll give you a car, but it's 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, right? Hold on." And depending on the type of money that you have in the bank, sometimes you're doing that and you're like, "Hold on, but like that's my money. You've been giving me back
Right,
my
right.
money and putting a
The
loan,
math
an
ain't
interest rate on
mathing.
it."
If I
Yeah.
carry the one and about the zero, man, what?
Yeah,
This ain't
like
math.
that don't make no sense. But again, we're programmed to think that this is the system and the way to go. And so again, I love the fact that you highlighted that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call that out. They fast forward into the time at Penn. Penn was, people did not talk about money from a the name of our course at Penn is Life 101. So like when
Mhm.
I say
Yep.
Life 101, I mean, like you said, buy a house, buy a car, good debt, bad debt. Hold on, good debt. What's good debt? I don't know what you're
Yep.
talking about, right?
That's what the millionaires
401ks,
got.
exactly, right? 401ks, IRAs, things of that nature. Like we didn't talk about money from that perspective, but Penn, especially the Wharton School of Business,
Yeah.
was a recruitment. It's the way Alabama football is to the NFL, Georgia football is to the NFL. Wharton is that to Wall Street or to
Wow.
private equity, right? And so every year you had people in the quote unquote rat race at Wharton to get the jobs with Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and UBS and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they would
Mhm.
talk about finance, right? They talk about leverage buyouts. They talk about those types of things. And frankly, those things even still go over my head, right? Like, all right, you talking about that sounds good. Break it down to what that means. I buy it for how much, I sell it for how much, and all right, every single year I'm gonna make back what, right? Don't hit me with
Right.
the EBITDAs
Right.
and all
All
of
the
that type of stuff.
terms and the charts and the graphs.
Yeah, again, I get it, and I know there's somebody that's going to listen to this and be like, oh, this that's the language. A lot of these languages are invented to make people sound smarter than they actually are, right?
Mm.
A
Mm.
lot of these languages are invented to create a barrier to entry, and
Mm.
frankly,
There you go.
if you want to get really real, a lot of these businesses that we all believe in are fugazi, and they go out and they raise money, and they don't use their own money to do things. They raise money, they don't show a revenue or profit, and they have a opportunity to build something with people backing them with money, and they don't necessarily have to produce a return on that. And they get 20
Mm.
years to do it, 25 years to do it, 30 years to do it. When in most uh
Scenarios.
situations, most
If you
scenarios,
don't produce,
you out of here. You
NFL.
out of there.
If you ain't
Right.
make that tackle, you miss too many tackles. Yeah,
You
yeah,
out of here.
buddy.
Right. And so I say all that to say, not hating on some of these things, because some of these companies have literally changed the way we operate and see the world.
Yeah.
Amazon went forever without making a profit, right?
Mm.
With that being said, there's a lot of pressure that any of us feel and let me be clear because I don't want to just say us. There's a lot of pressure that I felt coming from where I've come from to go into
Mm.
these spaces to be like, to try to understand this stuff and try to see and try to be like and try to wrap my brain and my experiences around how they were operating, when really you got to realize that they're playing a different game with different rules.
Mhm.
And and there's so much pressure when it comes to financial literacy, financial education, to have it all right and to your shoulders up and I'm making all the right decisions. And really you got to take a step back and be
Save,
like, yo,
save, save.
yeah, and really you got to take a step back, and this is not giving you excuse to mess it up, right?
Right.
But this is giving you the confidence and the encouragement to go out and learn it the right way, because if you look at our government, they can't balance a checkbook, right? Like they just,
We
hey, we
in
get to
debt.
the hey man, let's go ahead and write this bill and let's print some more money. We can't do that as individuals,
Right,
right?
right.
We have folks
You can.
who
Hey, look. You can, but your credit
oh yeah,
score gonna be
yeah,
real
you're gonna be
crazy.
jammed.
I
Yeah.
wonder what the United States credit score is right now. That thing in the dumps.
Right, right. And they just, hey man, let's print some more. And so I guess again, that's my thing. Is just like when for me, as I went on the journey of like understanding this stuff more so that I could teach it not only to my students, but also my family and friends, but also teach it in a way that was authentic to me. I just found I had to have my own, because you go through, you do these things, you go through your own, and you're my brother, so I'm always gonna talk 100% real with you, whether people watching or not. It's like
Yep, yep.
you go through your own, not identity crisis, but that what is it called? That imposter syndrome. How do I
Hmm.
deserve to be talking to these people about this stuff? What do I know about buying a crib, and what do I know about this, and what do I know about that? And you do the education and you put in the work and the research so that you feel confident when you up there. Same way you studied the playbook, so that when you out there on the field, you felt confident running the plays.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I also, as I was doing my own discovery, again, I found like you playing a different game than I ever even knew existed.
We ain't even
And
get this playbook. We ain't,
yeah,
we got this game plan, and and they over
we
here
got to
playing
work
against the
hard.
Steelers. Like we.
Work, yeah, we got to work hard, save your money. If you save enough, then maybe you can invest in your own business and build it. When I've talked to some people whose names you've seen in movies and running big companies, and
Hmm.
the first thing they say, whoa, 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 rule number one, never use your own money to
Mm,
build a business. And I'm like, what? What
mm.
do you mean? Whose money are you using then? What you talking about? I remember somebody telling me that in 2013. And I was just like, hold on, who do you know that can do that? Like, I don't get it. I thought I had to stack up this money in league and then go take it and put it into this, and then I'm building it, and I build it and I flip a few of them, and then I get house money, and then I take my money out, and then I keep going. And then, whoa, 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 like literally abruptly stop me. Rule number one of business: never, ever, ever use your own money. I'm like, whoa, it's a different game. So.
Yeah. And and you spoke a little bit about like the gamification of things and how it's completely different from what we've learned in our communities. And I know early on with a podcast, Earn Your Leisure has been huge, especially to the culture and teaching financial education, talking about stocks and investments and things of that nature. I know even before I heard of Earn Your Leisure, I didn't hear of them until I got to and but when I saw who was a part of Earn Your Leisure, I was like, yo, Brandon was talking to them like a decade ago for real, So, talk a little bit about what you and Ian Dunlap were doing, when you guys were having conversations as it relates to financial education back then, and then talk about your experience on Netflix, Buy My House. That was crazy.
Yeah, man. I think one, like you said, shout out to Earn Your Leisure. When I did it was episode 18. And I'm proud that I even know the episode number, because that's how big and incredible these guys have gotten. And at
Yeah.
that time, they were using iPhones. It was Rashad Bilal and Troy Millens who came
Yep.
to the Jets. It was right across the street from the Jets facility. They shout out to them. They came during training camp, worked with my team, and literally spent the off day. We set up in the meeting room, and again, we just had a
Wow.
great conversation. You know what I'm saying? And what I love about what they've built is, again, they've made it accessible. They've been authentically, unapologetically themselves. And I see them from time to time talking about some folks in the comments, or folks who are asking them for more, and like, how come y'all don't do this? And they've also been very blunt recently about like if y'all can't take these opportunities and go do something with it, then that's on you, right? Like
Yeah.
we're creating the space, we're creating the events. We got Invest Fest. We're giving you an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to hear from Steve Harvey, from Tyler Perry, from 50 Cent. You know, if you at some point you got to go from
Gotta do your own work.
yeah, at some point you got to go from learning the playbook to actually playing the plays. Put the cleats on and let's go. And again, so shout out to them and what they're doing and how they're activating on the different conversations that they're having. Again, they're
Mm.
examples for everybody, frankly. With Ian and the master, aka the master investor, and just in general, I think that making these conversations normalized is key for
Yeah.
us. Anything that we do, and people know what I'm talking about when I say we, anything that we do and we intentionally focus on, we typically take over and we
Mm.
typically become really good at it, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's sports and athletics, whether it's entertainment, whether it's investing. The problem is we haven't been in these conversations, we haven't normalized these conversations, that we haven't made them cool. So with
Mm.
Earn Your Leisure, Master Investor, Market Mondays, you know, the fact that they can come out on into stadiums and or concert halls and have them things full. The fact that they can
Yeah.
show up in London and have a line around the block like Wayne is performing, right?
You're
Or
right.
Kevin Hart is doing a set. That is what is needed to shift and push the culture because now there's more young people growing up saying, I just want to I just want to invest my money. Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
be an owner. I want to invest my money. And so anyway, so again, I just think all of it is phenomenal to continue to push the culture forward and to normalize these conversations and
Yeah.
make them cool, right? We don't realize the
Yeah.
bookworm, MJ made more money off the court than on the court. Bron is
Mm-hmm.
making more money off the court than on the court. This dude's a billionaire hooping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, what they've done athletically have definitely impacted their marketability off the court as well too. Steph Curry, right? Pat Mahomes. But we're in the midst of a renaissance where it's cooler and cooler for athletes to talk about, yeah, I'm invested in this fund or I own this team or I do this while playing ball. Where
Mm.
years ago, when you were playing and earlier on in my career, if you
Yeah.
were doing things off the field, that was putting a target on your back of like, all right, we're gonna cut him. He's distracted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So look at how the culture is shifting right before our eyes. And I can't imagine now with NIL and revenue sharing
Mm.
coming in college. I can't
Mm.
imagine where we could be if we are surrounding athletes and entertainers and just our culture with the right resources and conversations to steward their opportunity wisely.
And so I think it's extremely important that people learn the basics, financial education, of course. Hey, if you guys haven't picked up Brandon's book right here, Your Money Playbook, make sure you go and check this out. Brandon has been a guru. He's been on CNBC, which I watch in the mornings now, and I'm looking at the ticker signs. I'm listening, and I can understand it because of guys like, Earn Your Leisure, because of yourself, because of Wall Street Trapper, because of some of the private client advisors that I've spoken to, and so just shout out to you guys that are consistently educating the community on these very important topics, because we know that with the inflation of the dollar, you can't just leave your money sitting on the sideline and just not doing nothing, because it's really going to be to the detriment of your financial success. I know you've created a platform for you mentioned NIL and college athletes and being able to actually assist them and help them navigate this new and crazy, like this is unprecedented times where I know when I was playing, you weren't getting nothing. You
Yeah.
had to figure out how you was going to go to the movies and get a meal. You feel me? And so now we go from that to NIL, which is extremely important. Bro, you were one of the ones that share with me the history of student athlete, the term.
Mm,
For those out there that don't know, this term student athlete it was coined by the NCAA.
yeah.
And this was all because of a lawsuit. There was a player years ago who was a football player. He got injured. The family was looking for some sort of compensation, or because he was essentially
Mm,
your worker. You're essentially working for this university. And at the time, the university was like, yo, you know what? Like, we got all of these athletes out here. Imagine if they all were looking for compensation or, wanting to sue for benefits and all of this type of stuff. What can we do to alleviate that?
Mm,
Amateurism. So now we're gonna call it y'all student athletes.
mm,
So y'all don't get no workers comp
mm.
and we ain't gotta pay y'all. We're gonna say, oh, we're gonna give you a scholarship, free education,
Yeah.
and so like talk about that and then talk about what you're doing at athletes.org to help assist and help navigate these college athletes.
Yeah, man. One, it's incredible that you brought up that term and everything like that, and it changes your perspective. Like reading how money works, and you
Mm-hmm.
hear about this guy, the guy that you mentioned. His name is Ray Dennison. He died in this game in 1959. His wife was trying to get workers' comp, and they came up with student athlete, just as you said, to make him an amateur and say, you're not a worker. Other athletes who've been injured. There was an athlete in November at Alabama A&M, Medrick Burnett, who passed away from a brain injury, spent a month in the
Wow.
hospital from a brain injury sustained on the football field. And again, not too many of us have ever even heard of him. And what you see is, you forget because of the game is so thrilling and so entertaining, you forget that there's billions of dollars being generated off of the game. And hey, for any owner, any entrepreneur, hey, if I can make $1 billion and I don't have to pay my staff anything, while that might not be the right thing to do, that's a lot of entrepreneurs' dreams, frankly,
Yep.
right? I get to
Yep.
keep it all myself. And so what
Yep.
you've seen over years is the NCAA and schools have been able to build up their facilities. They've been able to build up their schools. They've been able to buy real estate around their schools and things like that. But that's because they've never cut the athletes in on the huge contracts that they're
Mm.
earning. Right. The most popular sport in the country is NFL. The second most popular sport is college football. It's not the NBA.
Mm.
It's not the MLB. It's college football. And so what we've built with athletes.org is a players association for college athletes, because the same way we, Joel Gamble, Brandon Copeland, have been represented by the NFL Players Association in the negotiating rooms that we weren't
Mm.
even in, that helped us get minimum salaries, helped us negotiate what free agency should look like. Hey, what happens if you get hurt in week 3? Hey, well, to team, you still got to pay them a little bit. You can't just turn them to the wolves, right? Like they've created processes around all these things to ensure that we were treated as fairly as possible. It's a grown man's game. We sign up for it, but there's rules to this thing, especially in a multi-billion-dollar industry where everybody's eating off of the work that
Yeah.
you do. The same thing is happening in college athletics. College athletics generates about $13 billion. That's annually. That's more than the NBA. That's more than the MLB.
Mm.
And the college athletes that are generating that revenue largely is football, men's and women's basketball at certain schools. Certain schools, men's basketball isn't generating revenue. Certain schools, men's basketball is, and women's basketball, same thing, vice versa, right? But ultimately, I have this feeling that, outside of financial education, one of the greatest things to do is to teach somebody how to fish and
Mm.
earn their money, right?
Mm.
Another step up from that is, let me make sure that you're signing the right deal the first time so that you
Mm.
actually are earning what you're worth. And
Yeah.
so what athletes.org, our aim and our mission is to educate, organize, and represent college athletes at all of the negotiating tables in college athletics to make sure that they earn their worth the first time.
Mm.
Right. And
Mm.
then also have health and safety protections and protocols and things like that. Have a real off season, right? And coach can't just text you, we did an event in Atlanta and we had a number of athletes a few of them call the day before, say, hey, coach just scheduled a morning meeting and workout on Saturday morning in the off season, right after bowl season. This is
Wow.
the weekend of the CFP, right?
Wow.
And we had Johnny Manziel, Lindell White, Kenyon Bonner, and Sean Clifford on stage, and they all laughed like the hell you would in the NFL. Schedule something randomly on a Saturday in the off season, right? You would get jumped,
It
right?
ain't
But
happening.
there's protections in place, right?
Yeah.
When you're in
Yeah.
college, 18, 19, 20, 21, you do whatever coach asks you to do. You run through a
Yep.
brick wall for coach. But
Yeah.
again, we're in a multi-billion-dollar industry, and frankly, they've always said in those platforms and being out here doing a lot of interviews on behalf of athletes, whether I ask for that seat or not, they always ask, why are you guys going broke? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I always, have my own response to that. First and foremost, I mean, there's 4 years of earnings power and potential that you just took from us.
Mm.
And you
Yeah.
all we're watching March Madness right now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the games are phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but every time a team advances, that school is getting a check. What
Yeah.
are those athletes getting?
Mm.
And now NIL
Mm.
is great. Just to be clear, because I know that some people listen, what are they getting paid now? Is NIL. NIL is great. NIL is phenomenal. ESPN just came out with an article about the contracts that the athletes are being asked to sign by their universities and getting pressured to sign that are horrible. Some of these
Wow.
contracts are, we can take this money away for any reason and any time. You can,
Mm.
if you want to go to another school, you gotta be bought out. You got to pay the university back this and that and that. Hold on, I thought we were an amateur.
What?
Now
Wow.
you don't want me to be an employee, but you treat me like an employee, but you also have no repercussions if you don't pay me on time. And we got a number of athletes who talk about how the school either stopped paying them or didn't pay them on time so they can pay these
Yeah.
new transfers to come in. And so the final
That's
thing I'll
crazy.
say is NIL is great. NIL is awesome. NIL is name, image, and likeness. Last time I checked, my name, image, and likeness came from my parents. They didn't come from the NCAA or the school. You should have never been able to touch that in the first place. NIL is
Mm.
a marketing deal, okay? And
Yeah.
right now with the NCAA, we're going to introduce NIL so athletes can finally get paid. You shouldn't have been taking the earnings power for anybody in the first place. You're giving them what they should have got in the first place, right? And
Mm-hmm.
NIL, just for everybody,
Mm.
NIL is Patrick Mahomes. He does a deal with Subway, with State Farm, with Gatorade, with Whoop. That's the NIL. That's marketing. That is
Mm-hmm.
not the money he gets paid to throw touchdowns to Travis Kelce, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Kansas
Mm-hmm.
City Chiefs, we would look at Patrick Mahomes like he is crazy to walk out on the field and
No
not get
deal.
paid by the Chiefs. Yeah, he's paid for love. He's paid with NIL.
Playing for the love of the game, baby. For the love of the game.
Exactly. And meanwhile, at Penn State, they got one of the largest stadiums in the country. Michigan got one of the largest stadiums in the country. They selling more tickets than your local NFL team.
And the
Selling it
crazy
out.
thing, you look at the prices, they even crazier than some shucks. I went to Colorado's game last year, and the
Mm,
price $300 a pop for the
come on now.
tickets. I mean, to
Come
see
on
Prime,
now.
you know, I'm gonna go see Prime, Coach
Yeah,
Prime, but sheesh, 300. That's less. I mean,
that's a
that's
lot.
more than the NFL games. Oh, you said something about just folks shouldn't have been able to touch name, image, and likeness to begin with. When I think
Hmm.
about that, I start to just think past players
Hmm.
and the Reggie Bushes of the world, the Johnny Manziels who you just mentioned, the Peter Warks, who the Jameis Winstons, who some of who you guys may know out there that may have signed a couple of things for a couple of
Hmm.
dollars, and we always student athletes or student athlete
Hmm.
or just a student on a college campus, and you know how it feels to be a broke college student on campus if you went to college. And so could you imagine somebody coming up to you, with your jersey with the name on the back of your joint
Right.
and saying, hey, can you sign this and I'll pay you $500 for it, and you trying to
You
figure
said
out
that.
when your next meal is coming, and
Come
you
on,
can't
man.
even go to the movies, but you can't sign it because, or if you sign it, you can't take no money
Mm.
because you're an amateur. That's crazy. That's nasty work, bro. That's nasty, nasty
It's a
work.
system. It's a system, right? And it's like you said, it's or coming back to our conversation earlier, it's a whole game within the game, right?
Mm,
It's they demonize some college athletes, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm out to, like, we're not, athletes.org is a bridge. We're not here to ruin college athletics or anything. We built a bridge to do it the right way. But there
mm,
are some people who are sitting in those seats of leadership, and they're like, well, they got every excuse in the world while college athletes shouldn't be partners in the business. Well, we're paying them now.
mm,
You're paying them what you want to pay them, right? Like,
mm,
don't sit here and act like you've actually gone through a real negotiation with representation for those athletes that says, hey, in the NFL players get 48.5%. In the NBA, they get a little over 50%.
mm.
You're trying to give college athletes 22%. Last time I checked, if you line the ADs up, I don't think too many people going to show up. And so while there's some people who will say, well, college athletes don't deserve that. You're going to ruin the game. Whatever. I don't care what you think about it, period. Because You're not the one out there who's getting bumps, bruises, getting carted off the field, missing classes and things of that nature. Again, sometimes they make excuses of, well, they're getting an education here, they're getting the opportunity to change their lives. March Madness, I was recently in New York. The athletes are at Madison Square Garden on Tuesday playing in the Big East tournament. And then Thursday, you ain't going to school that week.
Right.
So I thought that
It
that mattered.
ain't nobody worried about school that week either.
Ain't nobody worried. And guess what? The AD makes more money every time you advance. The coach makes more money every time you advance. I'm saying, go ahead, y'all make y'all money. That's cool. But don't hate on the young man or woman who deserves to be making money as well too. Let it be life-changing for them the way it's life-changing for you. And there's a lot of folks who, not even just college athletics leaders, there's a lot of older folks as well too, not being ageist, but folks who, man, I served my time, I did that, and I don't want to see them getting paid. They're too young, they're gonna blow it. If you look around at most people in society, they can't manage their money either. So before you try to tell them what they should or could do with the money, that's what I always tell people, let me blow it then. Don't you hold it and pay yourself more because you don't want me to blow it. Let me blow it.
Right,
Let me blow it on
right.
my lake house the same way
Right.
you've blown it on yours, right? But like in everything in life, being a guy who's educated a lot of people on this stuff, I've learned to be able to say, hey, like, I'm not going to be able to save everybody, but I'm going to give you the tools and I'm going to give you the resources. And you'll never be able to take my class and say, if somebody would have only told me this, right? So again, the government can't balance a checkbook. There's leaders in positions. Just because you're older don't mean you're wiser with money, right? And let's go let these young people, let's let Peter Ward change his life when he can. Because as you and I know, we know this thing don't last forever. So let me
Not for long.
maximize this thing.
Not for long. And you mentioned something that kind of brings me back to just business decisions and people taking advantage, right? And so I know when you were in the NFL, I know there was a slew of folks that were coming with ideas. I got this invention that hey, $9.99, go ahead and invest in my joint.
Hey,
Like everybody's coming to you as an athlete with some type of idea, invention, or business. And so, can you speak a little bit about what your experience was with, dealing with whether it's family, friends, and their business ideas, and then also how you're using athletes.org to help those college players navigate all of those bit like these vultures
yeah.
out here, these wolves, in sheep's clothing that are trying to access their capital.
Yeah, man. I think one, that has been a constant evolution. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why I'm so curious and nosy about how things work, because I feel like the more education I do, the harder it is to take advantage of me because I
Mm,
know what I'm talking about, right? Like I
mhm,
know how much it costs to do this and this and that. And I've put in my hours, so to speak, to be able to sense what's real and what's not real. Now, with that being said, I have also fallen victim to fraud. I've also fallen
mhm,
victim to the negative people and vultures out there in the world. And while it eats me up, it pisses me off. What I've been blessed enough to have a perspective on is I realized that every single time I played football, I missed the tackle too, right? Like I didn't always
mhm.
make the play. And you
Right.
hope you make more plays than you have more good plays and great plays than bad plays, and you hope that those are
Yeah.
minimal. And with money, you hope that they become to the point where they're nilch. But if you're playing the game, at the highest level, you're not going to be
We're
perfect
gonna have some wins and
right?
losses.
Exactly. And frankly, I'm trying to chalk those up in my mind as, again, I'm not saying I'm trying to go out here and get got,
Get got.
but I'm trying to chalk those up as like, okay, that's my MBA, because I know I'll never make that mistake again. I'll never
Right.
do a deal like that again. But guess what? Me taking this L now, I'm fortunate to be able to walk away from it smarter, wiser, stronger, and also more just a demanding of like, this is the line. If you want to do business with me, do it like this. If not, cool, find somebody
Mm,
else. Period.
mm.
No shake, no quivering, no quiver in the voice. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Um, so I think for me, it's one, evolving, becoming more mature and refined in what's a yes for you, what's a no for you, what are you looking for, what are your red flags, and like everything else in life, it's experience. It's normalizing the conversation. I tell people, I have three boys. I have a
Yep.
5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-month-old. And my older two are in the football, basketball. And when training them for football, an example I like to use is throw my oldest the rock and he drops it. The first time I ever threw him the rock, he gonna drop it, right? And
Boy
you
got
can get to the
linebacker
NFL.
hands.
And you can get to the NFL and you can forget that the first time anybody ever threw you a ball, you dropped it. Even Joel
Hmm.
Gamble, the first time they threw you a rock, you dropped it. Boom, you pick it up and you keep that boom,
Hmm.
and eventually you catch it. And eventually you
Hmm.
get older and you don't realize you done put in probably a million catches. Eventually it's
Yeah.
and eventually when you drop it, you surprised, like, what the? You looking at your hands like, hold up. But you forget that a lot of us as athletes, we forget how much work we put into becoming athletic and to become elite at what we do.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
we go into business and we're so used to that now. Hold on, I gotta look at these spreadsheets and you forget what it's like to fail and to not be good at
Mm.
something and have to work through it and through that discomfort and that pain. And so what I'm trying to liken this to is the same evolution that we had with catching the rock or doing athletic things is the same evolution you have
Mm.
with looking at deals and evaluating them and evaluating people. And now you start to see things. I saw this 10 years ago now. Like I'm just in the business
Oh
game
boy,
for a few
looking
years.
buggy eyed. He looking
Yeah,
buggy
I've
eyed. Look
heard
like
that
he
line
trying.
before. I've heard that before. You're trying to distract me from actually looking at the numbers right now.
Mm.
So developing that mechanism, that muscle is what makes me feel more comfortable and confident going into the next deal and the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And then for me personally, which is not the right route for everybody, I will go ahead and say it. But for me personally, I am a builder myself. I can go invest with you, but I can also just do it myself. And by me doing it myself, while I may not scale to some crazy level, I know me and my family gonna be good. I know I can trust me. I know
Mm.
if I'm paying attention to stuff, anything I pay attention to, we tend to do pretty well with.
Right.
Anytime I just throw it to you and I'm like, oh, let me trust. That's when I come back. Hell, why are we doing it like that? Where's the money going? You bought yourself what before we didn't get in the profit? What we doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So that's also a lesson that I'm learning. And frankly, I'm in the midst of figuring out, well, how do
That's
I
tough, bro.
scale to the
That's
big
tough
levels?
to be able to trust people with the same level of, I guess, discernment that you would have as it relates to business and just anything in general. Like
Yeah.
I'm learning even from the nonprofit, and I've been in the nonprofit arena now for over 15 years.
Hmm.
And, I've always kind of built in a mechanism where I was kind of following behind people. I never micromanage, but
Hmm.
I'm always like, all right, if this person doesn't complete this task, then I'll have to do X, Y, and Z by this date. And I
Yeah.
always built in those mechanisms because there's been so many people that have kind of dropped the ball over the course of the
Mm.
years. And, it's unfortunate, man, but the one thing I would say is as athletes, sports is always teaches us so many lessons and so many different skill sets outside of the game
Yeah.
to where as though you can learn, with your work ethic, with your determination, your grit, your perseverance, all of these things that we learn to be successful in the 1%. Shucks, you could take that off of the field. And that's why you see so many athletes that are successful at business and,
Hmm.
other ventures because they've already been through the gauntlet of just test after test, of failure after failure, and they don't let that define who
Determined.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing too, I just had this revelation as you were speaking, is athletes, we talk about the benefits of being an athlete and especially team sport athletes. And like, when you think about being in the locker room or being on a team or training or us at TZ training, it was encouragement. It was pushing. Come on, man, you got more.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Right. Like,
Yep.
and the thing about it is in business, that can't always be your route. And what I mean when I say that is like you can't always be, and I'm evolving to this. And so that's why I'm speaking it through right now. You can't always be encouraging people to pull their weight, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's times in the locker room, which I love about the locker room. There's times in the locker room where people can tell you straight up how it is. Yo, that you look soft. That's weak.
You's
Stop playing.
garbage. You
Right?
garbage.
Yep.
That drop right there, that missed tackle, that was trash.
Yeah. And
But you
and
can't say that in the corporate America, bro.
yeah, you can't. And again, we in the locker room, you can be real authentic and you can say certain things with a laugh, but people know that's, I remember dropping a interception in Baltimore with the Ravens during like rookie training camp. And one of the guys I was competing with, Nigel Carr, said, "Man, you're dropping money. You leaving money on the ground, right?" Like we're competing, but you're also keeping it real with me. Other people will be like,
Yeah.
next time, come on. That's the encouragement mindset. And so for us as athletes, as we go into
Mm.
business, a lot of times, and maybe let me talk for me, myself, as I will continue to transition in business and continue to evolve, there's that teamwork encouragement, we can all win together mindset that slows me down from don't drop the rock. What are we doing? Like
Mm.
the harsh critical evaluation it takes to build something big and impactful. And
Mm.
so being aware of it, I'm sharing this to anybody out there because it's not just an athlete thing, being aware of it, of just when you're turning on those switches, because we can also compartmentalize because you can allow too much encouragement to distract you, deter you from getting the job done. Because that's what it's
Mm.
about, getting the job done. Tyler Perry talks about it in a different route. And he said, I saw him on Kiki Palmer's podcast and it hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, he had to learn that everyone couldn't fly at the same altitude as him. And he spent a whole lot of time trying to pull certain people up to come on, like look what's up here. Come on, like come
Mm-hmm.
on. Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you. And I'm spending so much effort and energy trying to pull them up to a certain altitude, but God didn't build them for that altitude. God didn't build them to be able to
Yeah.
breathe and
Yeah.
successfully survive at that altitude. So sometimes you gotta. It's not that you are hating on them, you're holding them back, and nothing like that. You got to let people live at their altitude. And the
Mm.
ones that want to come up to the altitude with you, they'll prove it. Other than that, I'm gonna let you exist at the altitude you want to exist at because if I bring you up higher, you might not be able to breathe here, frankly. So
Mm.
again, something for us to just keep in mind, everybody out there, athletes and et cetera, that locker room, the sports teach us so much. And there's certain things that we are scared to take into the corporate culture because as you can't say certain things in the corporate culture like that. Or you can't be that raw. You got to dress it up a little bit, right?
Right, right. You gotta
However,
put a sandwich to it.
yeah,
Real soft. You get the meat in the
mhm,
middle, and then top that thing off with some mayo and another bun.
right, right.
But in
Just don't forget
reality,
to
you
do
want
it.
to be like, yo, you ain't pulling your weight.
And the quicker you, and that's what I'm been telling myself, the quicker you just pull off the band-aid and do it, the quicker you get ish done.
Mm.
Ideas are praise, execution is worship, right?
Mm.
We here to execute. We ain't here to talk about ideas. We ain't here to, you ain't got all that type of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
Right.
that's just where I'm at in my own evolution with all the things that we're trying to build. And as I continue to evaluate the people around me and evaluate, hey, can you help me unlock this dream? Yes or no?
Mm.
That's the thing we got to keep in mind because a lot of us have those empathetic hearts. This is why you see a lot of
Mhm.
athletes going back to the community, going to
Yep.
help and all of that
Yep.
type of stuff. And we have the pressure there's not too many other communities that have the pressure that we have, the public pressure to go back and
And
help.
get yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right about that. Hey, Brandon, I'm definitely appreciative of you coming on today, man. Always a pleasure, to
Always.
talk to you, spend time with you. For those out there watching, can you let everybody know your social media handles, where to get in contact with you, how they can, check out your book, and as well as, athletes.org.
Yeah, you go to my social handles are bcope51, BCOPE51. If you want to get in touch with anything that I'm doing or tap into anything that I'm doing, whether it's the resources, the budget tools, the calculators, the book, or anything, you go to brandoncopeland.com, www.brandoncopeland.com. And yeah, please go copy your money playbook. I will tell you straight up, it is a real read. You will walk away from it. If you are really intentional, you will walk away from it with a playbook for your life, not for your cousin's life, not for your uncle's life, but your own financial strategy and plan. Now, again, a playbook is really good. Teams have a playbook every single week, but can you actually go out there and execute on the playbook? Like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. That's what life is. Market's down. Whoa, this wasn't part of the plan, right? But
Right.
can you stick to the playbook? Can you stick to the plan or the plan that you have for yourself, the vision you have for your life? So that's what your money
Mm.
playbook is all about. Bro, I appreciate you having me here, man. This is a full circle moment. And hey, we're gonna continue to hold each other accountable and continue to
Yep.
evolve because I know that the work that you do on a daily basis for the nonprofit, for your work and things of that nature, it is truly game changing and
Hmm.
changing lives for the better, which is what I'm all about. So I appreciate you, man. And appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And Brandon is a big supporter of the Joel Gamble Community Youth Outreach. He is one of our team sponsors. You know, he's consistently supporting. He has a football camp in the summer, each and every summer and annually at his alma mater, Gilman. And so definitely make sure to sign your kids up. We'll drop this episode sometime soon. This is such amazing conversation. Definitely want to do it again, man, and really dive
Absolutely.
deep into investments and all of the things that you talk about in your book, from diversification, because I know right now folks are like, they looking at that stock market, they
Mm,
looking at CNBC, and they're like, yo, this ain't it.
yeah,
So, just knowing and having some of these conversations is extremely important. So, bro, salute to you and everything you continue to do.
thank you.
Congratulations on it, on the family. Loving it,
Thank
man. Continue to strive for greatness, and I'll holler at you, bro.
you. Amen. Appreciate you, bro.